Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Denise and I like to make videos about astrology in real life. I put out videos every single week, so if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. It's kind of fun. In today's video, we're going to do my favorite Venus of all time, Venus in Gemini. You're going to find out why I think this is the best Venus that somebody could have. If you have Venus in Gemini, I envy you because life's amazing when you have Venus and Gemini. Let's get into the video. Venus and Gemini people are the absolute charmers of the zodiac. I've known quite a number of Taurus guys that had Venus and Gemini, and they were just not the most attractive individuals, but the most charming people I have ever met in my whole life. Unforgettably charming. So I like to come up with phrases for all of the Venus placements, for all the placements period. And the ironic thing is that I don't have a phrase for Venus and Gemini. You know, the irony being that I don't have words for a very wordy Venus. But I do have an image for you. So imagine a snake charmer. A snake charmer. That is exactly what Venus and Gemini people are. You are the snake, you're just an innocent snake, and you're just slithering about in life. And then here comes a little snake charmer. And you're just like, that is Venus and Gemini, the snake charmer. So Venus is the nocturnal yin receptive feminine planet. So what does that mean, Denise? What does that mean? So nocturnal means that it is one of the planets that you can't readily understand intellectually. You more so have to connect with it emotionally, intuitively. And this is the reason why sometimes the things that you like, you can't really explain them. And you know, when you say something like, I don't know, I like it, I like what I like. That is Venus speaking. That's your Venus talking. So Venus is what we inexplicably like. And essentially Venus represents three main things. The first thing is how we relate to other people once we get past the ascendant. How you mingle essentially with people, like if you're at a party or if you mingle at all. Secondly, Venus also represents what we value in ourselves and in others. This is characteristics, and it can also be like physical material things that you value. Lastly, Venus also represents what we bring to the table in relationships and at least one component of what we want out of love. But remember that your placements can be greatly modified by where they are located in the chart. So if you have Venus in the 12th house, this is going to be greatly modified. Imagine this whole description, but imagine it underwater. That would be in the 12th house. If you have it in the 8th house, it's also going to be modified. Or if you have like one of the big planets conjunct your Venus, it's also going to be modified. If you have Saturn next to your Venus in Gemini, it's not going to be quite the same. If you have Pluto there, it's going to be a little bit different. So also keep that in mind. Secondly, relationships aren't all Venus. And even though Venus is, you know, the goddess of love, real love, you know, long-lasting love has way deeper roots than what Venus can provide, because Venus is a little bit superficial, and Venus above everything else wants to be liked, and in order to be liked, sometimes Venus can be a little bit fake. So when you want your relationship to last a long time, you want it to have more than just Venus. So keep that in mind. You want it to have Saturn, you want it to have Jupiter. So yeah. So how does Venus and Gemini relate? First of all, they are on whenever they are in social settings. They are ruled by Gemini, so this means that their intellectual capacity is always on and observing. They always want to notice every single detail so that they can comment on it, so they can have something to say to anyone that they meet. They're really, really chatty people. They can strike up a conversation with absolutely anyone, and they probably try to do this. And they also have really great smiles. This is what I've noticed about rising Gemini people and Venus and Gemini people. They have really good smiles. It doesn't matter, like, you know, if they're not like typically attractive in other ways, the rest of their features, but their smile tends to be really beautiful and really charming and magnetic. They always know just what to say at every moment, and they know what to say to make you smile because, as I've said, they're taking everything in and they notice little quirks about everyone, so they'll be able to comment on them. And they also like to say just really random out-of-the-box things, which is another Gemini thing. You know, they like to switch it up because they're like tricksters. They are really funny people. Venus and Gemini people, they have a way with words, and they like to use words in creative ways to make people laugh and to entertain others. They're very clever because, you know, they're being ruled by Mercury. Mercury rules the way that they relate. So there's a lot of intellectualizing that goes on. So their mental capacity is really strong, and that's what makes them so clever and so funny. They can pretty much follow any conversation. So since Venus is our passive energy, it is kind of like the way that we naturally attract the things that we like and are attracted to. Whereas Mars is how we like assertively go out there and get what we want, like physically when you go out there more directly. Venus is the way that you passively attract it. So I like to compare Venus to kind of like a perfume or a scent that you're putting out into the world, and people are like, they're like picking it up. Like, do you smell what the rock is cooking? Oh, I think he has Venus and Gemini actually. He's a Taurus, but I'm pretty sure he's got Gemini somewhere in there. He's very charming. So you put this scent out there and people are gonna pick up on it, and depending on what your Venus is going to determine what is it that they're picking up on. So Venus and Gemini people may inadvertently, with this scent, attract people who want to have a good time, people who want to have fun. And Gemini generally also wants to have a good time and have fun, so this is great. But it's not so great if like in the rest of your chart you have like more serious like Capricorn placements or Scorpio placements that might make you want something more serious and steady. Venus and Gemini might attract people who are just looking for a fling or for a good time period. They can also attract people who want to be swept off their feet, because Venus Gemini really has that energy that makes you just completely like involves your mind and makes you fall in love. I really believe that. But again, Venus and Gemini can pretty much just attract anyone because they are so shapeshifty that they can transform into anyone essentially, because it is mutable air. So they pick up on your likes and dislikes, and they can, play up parts of themselves that will fit that role. They can attract pretty much anybody. That's how attractive they are. So always look back at the ruling planets and the symbolism of the sign itself and the element in order to get a more complete view of the placement. It really helps. So Venus in Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury in air. So this is high intellect, and they are very stimulable. They like to be stimulated, and they also are highly stimulating. Being around them is very stimulating for those that are coming into contact with them. So what do they value? They really value fun. This is the twins. Think about the twins, and they're rambunctious, and it's also air, and the air element likes to connect to others. It's a very playful energy. So they really value people who they can play around with, especially people they can flirt with. These people love to flirt, and they'll have friends that they just flirt with. Like, they don't really necessarily really like you. They just like flirting with you. If you can give it back, they absolutely love that. But keep in mind that if somebody with Venus and Gemini flirts with you, that doesn't mean that they're in love, guys. Venus and Gemini just loves to flirt. It's just fun for them. It is very lighthearted. And I always talk about play whenever I talk about Gemini, because it's air, right? And they do things in order to get people's attention so that they can have a little tussle with them. And it's kind of like playing, like when you're a little kid and you play around with people. That's what Gemini is doing. And in Venus, they're doing that with you, but they're doing it intellectually. So it's like they like to play with people's minds a little bit. It's very stimulating. They also really like mental stimulation. It's Mercury in air. So Mercury is a very intellectual sign, but in air, it makes it even more intellectual. So they like to weave riddles and to be sucked into riddles themselves. They like people, this is why they might like somebody who's a little bit mysterious, because they want to figure you out and they want to, sweep you up in one of their Gemini riddles, and they're very entertaining, so I highly recommend that you do that. They also really value intelligence because they like to, as I've been saying, they like to play around and get into little battles with people, little intellectual battles with people, not necessarily like a debate. This isn't like a debating sort of sign, even though they can debate with anyone because they're so good with words. But Venus in Gemini likes to tussle around intellectually with others, to spar with you in a playful way. So they want somebody who can, take it, somebody who's going to take it and give it back, So they need somebody who is intelligent, and they like that. But because if you're not able to go back and forth with them, they will get bored. So they need somebody who's smart. But that said, I have found that Venus and Gemini, even though they want somebody who's smart, they still kind of have to have the upper hand a little bit. They have to feel like they have the upper hand, because remember guys, they're the snake charmer. And in order to be able to snake charm you, they need you to be, you know, not as smart as they are. That's another thing that I've noticed. So yeah. If not, you won't get snake charmed by them, and that will really upset them. They want to be able to charm you. So what is it that they bring to relationships? They bring entertainment, just entertainment in every single form. They are somebody that you could talk to and laugh about. This isn't somebody who you're gonna necessarily talk to about very deep things, unless they have other like more like water in their chart. Then you could really, you know, go to them for absolutely everything. But these are the people that you could talk to for hours about anything, and they talk about really interesting topics. They can go off into talking about even conspiracies, just anything that is going to stimulate their mind. They're there for it. They always want somebody to have something to do with. They like to have fun, so they like to go on little trips, and they can make anything into an adventure. They need other people to go on their adventures. They bring a lot of laughter to relationships. They can really make you laugh, and they like people who make them laugh, or at least try to. They also will be somebody who always knows what to say, because, you know, they talk so much that they always have the right thing to say at the right time, I have found. Lastly, they can be pretty good with a written word. So they could probably write you a very sweet text message, a letter, a poem, a note, a book, a limerick. They can pretty much write very well. So you can look forward to that. They can really make you fall in love with their letters because they're so good, those little... They also bring and want variety in relationships. You have to be able to move about with their air wherever it is that they're coming and going, because remember that it's mutable air. So you have to be able to meet them, and if you're not able to meet them, then they won't be satisfied. So this is one of the Venuses that is more difficult to satisfy, especially if the person has maybe other like really fantastical things in the chart, like maybe Pisces. Other mutable energy might be too much. They need something stabilizing in order for them to be able to remain in one relationship and not want to leave it, because, you know, they don't like boredom. They don't like to do the same thing all the time. So they're going to bring variety, and they're going to want variety in relationships. So the change, it's going to happen either organically or artificially, but they're going to have to be changing at all times. I didn't have a whole lot to say about Venus and Gemini, but this is because Venus and Gemini is not that complicated. Like, they're more lighthearted souls, and they like lighthearted things. And there's all different kinds of love in the zodiac. And Venus and Gemini is that, you know, it's just very lighthearted energy. And unless you have another experience of Venus and Gemini, I'd like to hear stories about that. I guess the one thing is that, like, if they're really bored, they can stir the pot and make some drama, but that's just because they're bored and they like to get into things. So they'll say anything to make some fun and to get, you know, they're tricksters. So they'll say anything to get a little situation going. But I give them a pass for this because they're so charming, so it doesn't really bother me. You just have to recognize when somebody's a Venus and Gemini, because they can. So what did you guys think? Do you have any stories, anything to add about Venus and Gemini? Hey, I have a question for Venus and Gemini people. Don't take this the wrong way, Venus and Gemini, but my friend and I, my friend from Midnight Zero, Mina, she's always, her dad was a Gemini, and we're always just like, man, like, how can Venus and Gemini like really stay in love like for the long haul? Can you guys tell me about your longest relationships, Venus and Gemini? I do know a few Venus and Gemini men who are married, happily married, it seems. So, I mean, obviously it can be done, but what are some things that you think keep you entertained and intrigued in the long run? Is it that you are able to do things on your own, or have you found maybe another Gemini? I really think that two Geminis together like would probably work out. Unless one of them is too sensitive, in which case it wouldn't. But that's what I think. So that's the video for today, guys. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for being here and watching another one of my astrology videos. Don't forget to like the video for good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.